Augustus St. Gaudens was one of America's greatest sculptors, and he called Cornish, New Hampshire, home.
He was the most important American sculptor of the late 19th and early 20th century. And he was well known for his monuments both in the United States and in Europe.
His studio and much of his work is still on display at the St. Gaudens National Historic Site, open to visitors in the spring and summer. But this year, during the site's off-season, many of the artifacts took a field trip to the Queen City and the Currier Museum of Art.
We're in one of three galleries of a major exhibition of the sculpture of Augustus St. Gaudens. It's been fascinating for me to be able to see these objects that I knew from their sighting in the home and studio in Cornish in a museum setting. There hasn't been a major exhibition of St. Gaudens sculpture in New England for more than 30 years.
That may be in part due to the monumental task of displaying the works of an artist who thought big.
One of the major challenges of doing a show of St. Gaudens' work is that his best-known monuments are large, monumental sculptures that are sited in New York, or the Shaw Memorial, which is in Boston Common. We've represented those monuments with smaller versions that were created by the artist so people could get a sense of what those objects look like.
St. Gaudens' sculpture, referred to as Standing Lincoln, was one of his first and most important pieces.
He was hired or commissioned in 1884 by the estate of a wealthy businessman in Chicago to create this large standing sculpture to honor Lincoln in his home state. He began this sculpture when he first summered in Cornish, New Hampshire, and he was able to find a local farmer who was roughly the same height and build as Lincoln, and he used that farmer's body as a model for the figure itself. The full-size statue was 12 feet high, and when it was unveiled in 1887 in Chicago, 10,000 people showed up in the rain to see the unveiling. He became the go-to sculptor for if you wanted a major monument or memorial, whether it was Admiral Farragut, Abraham Lincoln, Colonel Shaw of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, Tecumseh Sherman. You went to St. Gaudens. That's the stature and level of his career by the late 19th century.
One of St. Gaudens' best-known sculptures is the Shaw Memorial in Boston, a work of art that took him 14 years to complete. Pieces of that process on display in this exhibition.
And it is considered by historians as one of the most important late 19th century monuments in American art and the City Beautiful movement. Obviously, we couldn't bring this 7,000-pound sculpture to the Currier, but we wanted to represent it for people so they could understand what the nature of this monument was. In his quest for realism, he recreated all of the uniforms and the equipment, the rifles, the canteens, the horse tack, directly from objects from the period, so he was able to accurately reproduce them. And for the African-American soldiers, he hired 40 different men, or more than 40 different men, to pose for him in his studio so that he could sculpt their portraits.
Diana stands at the center of the largest room of the exhibit, leaving visitors gazing upwards at the smaller version of the statue that used to grace the New York City skyline.
This is Diana, the goddess of the hunt. This is one of St. Gaudens' more controversial sculptures. It originally existed on the top of the first Madison Square Garden. The original sculpture was over 18 feet high. It was made of hammered sheets of copper that were then gilt which is the same way the Statue of Liberty was made. And it was so tall that people made the joke that Stanford White had created a wonderful pedestal for St. Gaudens's sculpture. So almost immediately they removed the 18-foot high version and produced a somewhat smaller 13-foot high version. And that's the version that stood on the top of Madison Square Garden until 1925.
The exhibit even includes a space to sit and see what it might feel like to be in the presence of one of St. Gaudens's works with his Adams Memorial.
At one point, he ran studios in New York, Paris, and Cornish at the same time. So he had quite a big operation with many assistants, both men and women, that helped to create the original clay models for the sculpture.
Statues and sculptures aren't the only works of St. Gaudens on display at the Courier. The exhibition also includes coins designed by the artist, correspondence, and more.
I think we've been able to give people a sense of his place in history, both art history and cultural history. And to many people, the objects are familiar, the subjects are familiar, but they don't necessarily connect those with St. Gaudens. So it's been an opportunity to reinforce his legacy and to connect these sculptures with his name more directly in the public's mind.